I think, we don't start.
The link below, do you see it? Why are you watching me still? You haven't clicked the link yet. Click it, click it. Click the link right now.
I was making good money here doing AV work, and I was living in Tampa. And I had the opportunity to go overseas to work on a postal contract in Afghanistan.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, see? Totally different.
Wow.
So, and I took it, and I was making good money here, and I was just like, but this is an opportunity. And yes, the money was more, but the money was exciting. But on top of that, I was like, I get to be in another country though.
Yeah.
Like, let's go see what that's like, because the furthest I've gone was probably like New York.
Yeah.
I've never been anywhere to the west. I think I got to Texas before.
Yeah.
So I got to see a little bit of the States, but I was just like, another country, I'm down for that.
Yeah, especially Afghanistan. I mean,
yeah,
that's awesome.
So, but those experiences, and then I traveled a little bit, not as much as most contractors did. Like, a lot of them will like stay over there, vacation to another country, then go back to work. But so I didn't get a chance to do that like I would like. But those, like, what you deal with there, you know, the conversations you have with different people from different countries, like the way they see America, you know, just like their experiences, and then you realize that your experience is not common. What's common to you is not common to somebody else.
Absolutely.
And that's where the humility and grace comes in at.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know, growing up, it's like it felt a little lonely out there, because normally you try to find friendships that you have things in common with.
Right.
And the more that I moved around, the less in common I had with anybody I knew. And so I feel like the path just became narrower. So I think I was naturally like a shy young girl, but I think even as the years went by, I think my experiences kind of made me more to myself as well, just because I couldn't find people that I could relate to. But I did have a heart for people, you know, and you talk about the humility, and I feel like I definitely had to, well, not really had to, but the circumstances and the atmosphere made you see things that, like, things that we take for granted here in America. I mean, my mother, you know, I grew up on welfare and food stamps, like, you know, my mom, she came out of that, thank God. But like, even buying a carton of orange juice in the supermarket, something so normal that we do here. Well, going to Ecuador, it's like, well, now we're gonna go buy the oranges, and you're gonna learn how to make juice. You gotta cut your own oranges, squeeze your own oranges, and not from the electric orange thing. Like, no, you gotta like
that manual
hand, and little things like that. It's like realizing, well, everybody doesn't get things the same way that I'm used to getting them. So I learned how to do things, you know, like we're used to shortcuts here. And over there, everything's from scratch. You learn to cook from scratch. You learn to make juice from scratch. Nothing is really artificial. And learning the value of the long route. And the benefits of that. It's like, it makes me feel like an old soul. You know, it's like normally as parents and our grandparents that know all about this stuff. And I feel like, and that was a whole nother thing that I was like, well, my friends don't know how to make orange juice or eat the weird things that I eat, because, you know, they, you know, other countries take advantage of every part of, like, I don't know if you're a vegetarian, but like, I'm not a vegetarian, but people get grossed out by like all different parts of the animal, right? Like, people eat tripe and tongue and like all these things. And my friends would be like, my friends here would be like, you eat what? So I'd have to like not say the things that I eat because it would gross them out, and they'd have no regard for like my emotion. Like, so it was like, okay, I'm just gonna have to keep that to me, because otherwise I'll be the weird kid, right? And who wants to be the weird girl who eats all this strange stuff, right? So yeah, definitely had to learn that.
It makes you grateful too. Like when I was over there, like, I was on the military base, but like, you're on a military base, and so you don't have access to the amenities or to the comforts that you come to know. Even when you were talking about, you saying that you grew up on with food stamps, stuff like that. I grew up on that too, and even those things are a luxury that we take it that we don't appreciate all the time. Like being broke, being broke here in America or being poor in America is still better than being, poor or broke in those other, because like
absolutely,
when you don't have it there,
absolutely.
I mean, where like your monthly income was like $3 a month.
Exactly.
Like you tell someone that they got $3 in food stamps in America, they're gonna be like, they're gonna get mad at the office, be like, no, you better find me more money. But like, those are different things that I think that's the reason why
there's an entitlement to the American mentality.
How you entitled and you broke? Like, how
right? Yes.
Like you don't
WIC,
have to get a handout.
You get WIC, you get food stamps, you get cash assistance, like all of these things. Section 8.
Section 8.
You get to all these countries, there's nothing.
Ain't none of that.
And they tax you on everything, but you still get nothing.
Yeah.
So, going to the market and seeing the women selling their vegetables with their malnutrition children next to them, but it's normal life.
Wow.
Like that's how they live. That's normal for them. So coming from here, you don't see starving children walk. Well, now, I mean, you've got homeless people in vans and all that, but on a normal basis, you don't see a starving child in the street.
Right.
It's normal for beggar kids to be walking in the street, and you make friends with most of them, and it's normal for them to beg on the street. They're normal beggars. Like we see them, right in the corner.
Wow.
And it's an eye opener.
Yeah.
It's an eye opener. The funny thing is that my parents would send me money from here. So back in that time, the dollarization, they didn't have dollars in Ecuador. They had their own like money. And the value of $1, like $1 over there would be like, I don't know, 5 to 10 times the amount what you could do with $1 here.
Wow.
So my parents would send me, they'd send me money. So if they send me $100, I was the rich kid on the block. I was rich. Yeah. I was literally like, $100 would last me a really long time.
A good while.
And then I treat my friends. I was never like the greedy kid, but I was seen as a rich. I didn't feel rich.
Yeah.
But they saw me as a rich girl.
Yeah.
It was just a very strange way of growing up. It was very strange.
Cause you come back here and you spend $100 there, and it's just like, wow, that was
goes to nothing. Yeah.
It was like a couple days.
Yeah.
Maybe. But so I guess doing that segued you into where you are now. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess when I was, it's funny because even them being poor, most of the people in a household have a maid and have a sitter. It's the strangest thing.
That's a blessing.
A maid and a sitter.
Wow.
And of course they get paid very little, but
I
mean, you get a maid and you get a sitter.
The help is there. Yeah.
And that's probably one of the things that impacted me a lot, because they were, of course, very poor people that would come and serve you. But for some really crazy reason, I would become friends with all the maids. I don't know why. I would talk with them a lot. Mm-hmm. And this is interesting, you know, we used to have like, the family used to have their table, but the maids would sit on another table, like on the raggedy table with their kid.
Wow.
Like, it was very, like, talk about segregation in the own culture. Like, we're talking about your same people, but because they were poor, they'd have to sit on another table.
Wow. And
they're treated very, like they matter less, even though they almost become part of your family, but you're still the maid. Yeah. Right? I don't know why I would love to talk to them. Mm-hmm. And I remember one of the maids, which she's pretty much like family in the house. But she used to tell me about her life, and she lives like in this little hut, like the ones that you see on TV of poor people. Like, she lived in a hut. And she invited me to her, like, I wanted to go see her house. Wow. I was, I don't know, 13, 14, 15. I used to tell her all the time, I want to see where you live. And there was a humbleness, I guess, about them that my heart just gravitated. Yeah. This humility, this humility that I wanted to know more about. And so I remember the day she took me, finally one day she took me. And I may have been, I don't even think anyone else in the household went ever. I don't know. But we went, and she gave me some lunch or dinner or something. Mm-hmm. And I loved her little hut. I fell in love with how she lived. Yeah. Such simplicity, such humbleness that I wanted to be around people. But then I learned, and I was always made fun of for being the one that used to talk to the maids, right? I didn't care, but I did learn something the hard way. My uncle used to tell me, you know, you got to be careful because they steal, because they don't have money. And I didn't quite believe, like, you don't know about that kind of stuff until I did learn the hard way. One of the maids that came in, she started stealing my stuff, and I didn't know until we found it in a little like corner. She slept in like the boiler, like where the heater was. Mm-hmm. That was her room. And my stuff was in there in her bags. And wow, that was like a huge eye opener for me. And she was a little older than me. Man. She wasn't that much older. And I don't know, just there was a compassion that I had for people like that, because I knew that they came from broken places. Yep. And I just wanted to know more. And so I'd talk to them, and I'd just hear them, and they'd go through things. And I went through once I got older and I was in college, I went to live at this lady's house. I rented a room. She had a maid. Mm-hmm. And she was treated horribly. The maid was treated horribly. And this lady had a lot of money where I was living. She had it was a mansion in one of the big cities, and I was going to school, and this maid used to cry. Like, this lady would make her cry. She was awful. And my heart would just break. And one day I kept telling her, why are you here? Why don't you leave? Like, her children, she missed her children, and I would stay late with her just talking. And I told her, I'll help you leave. Mm-hmm. And she was like, she was afraid of the woman, the owner of the house. Yeah. Because they were live-in maids. She said, well, I would need someone to hold, because I can't take all of my stuff in one. I said, I'll hold some of it in my closet. Well, I did. I did. And the following morning, she was gone. And the lady of the house, she was livid.
She was mad.
She was so mad.
Wow.
And asking, does anybody know where she went? Does anybody know where she went? And of course, I didn't say anything. I went to school that day. And when I came back, the lady was like, I need to speak with you. I found her stuff in your closet. She went through my stuff.
Wow.
And she told me every word under the sun, how horrible I was and how not loyal I was.
Wow.
And she threw me out of the house that day. I didn't even have anywhere to go.
Wow.
And I cried for days because of all of the nasty things this lady told me. I mean, I get it. I made her maid run away. But, you know, I never regretted that. I don't think I've ever like told that story publicly. That's so weird.
Let's hear.
So yeah, that was one of my just moments that I realized, like, this is what I want to do, just help people.
So you were counseling even back then.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So now, what's the faith like over there? Because normally those countries like that, they're more Catholic.
Yeah.
So where was faith at?
Yeah, I grew up in a Catholic background, though we didn't go to church really. I mean, it was like one of those Catholics that like you're called a Catholic, but you know,
you're just gonna be at home with it.
Right. We weren't like devout or anything like that. Like you know, it wasn't until like my early teens that I felt like I was 19 and I was there. And I felt like I was on a search. I feel like spiritually I was looking for something. So I'd go to church when it was like empty. That's when I wanted to go. I'd feel I just want to be in the sanctuary where I almost felt like I felt God, but I didn't want like a service. I just wanted to sit there and talk to God on my own.
Oh, wow.
And I did that. Then I went to a couple like church services. And I felt closer to God, but I didn't really know what all of that meant. I went to Catholic school my whole life, from 1st to 12th grade.
Oh, so you was in private school.
I was in private school. Even in the Bronx, my mother, she didn't care what she had to save in order for me to be in private school.
Wow.
And I did. And I'm glad, you know, but I never learned about a relationship with God. Like they teach you about God and all of the things that he's done and all of the things that he did 2,000 years ago and how wonderful he was.
Yeah.
But never once did I hear God can do this for you today, right now. Like this is who he is and how alive he was. So it wasn't until my late 20s that I accepted Christ in my life. A long journey.
Yeah.
That was a long journey. Yeah.
But see, I feel like in my wife Oksana, she says that religion is just like a placeholder until like relationship comes. So I guess like you learning all of that because you still were learning about what he did, but I guess what made it relevant to your life was that relationship. And I think sometimes it's hard to hear that as from a religious, it's hard to hear religion. And that's why it's tough to receive, because you don't want to be selfish with it, but it's just like, okay, but how does this relate to my life? Not that it has, like, but it's just like, okay, but it has to kind of, it just doesn't gel.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can say that for everyone, but I know like for me, when I hear like religious tones or when I hear things about religion, I'm just like, for me, it just doesn't go.
Yeah.
Relationship though, like, okay, I can dig that.
I still struggle with that.
With relationship?
Well, with the religious aspect of like, even when you want to tell or talk to somebody about God, I try and stay so aware of language.
Oh yeah.
And not use like the churchy language. I can't stand that. And I try to stay off of it as much as possible. Because I know who I was back in the day, and you give me a church language, I was out. Like, I wouldn't hear you. Like, because you don't understand in the spirit what all that means. So it's just noise to you.
Yeah.
It's noise, and it's like,
yeah.
So, yeah.
I've been out, like at the grocery store, going to the car, whatever like that, and I've had people witness to me.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird. But it's been weird interactions, because like they'll walk up to me and they'll say something, and then I'm just like, yeah, or they'll like hand me a pamphlet or a book or something like that, and then just start going in on it, and I'm just like, oh, okay. I let them get their witness out. Yeah. And then I'll come back and just say, oh yeah, well, this is, whatever like that. And this is like around the time where I was going for my ministry license. So I was in like deep studies of scripture, but I didn't want to interrupt their flow or anything like that. And it was weird because a lot of times too, it was church pitchy. Like it was like really church pitchy. And I don't want to knock what anyone does, but I just felt like for me, like even when I do talk to people, it's not to pull you to my church. I'm not recruiting to the church. Yeah. So it was just weird being witnessed to like that. But then it got me on the other side of it. Like because when I really was like first really like getting into my relationship with God, you just excited, you want to go evangelize, so you get a part of these teams, you go evangelize. And it got me on the flip side of it though. And I was like, oh dang, is this what people see about it? Like, is this how they look at it? I don't think I want to do that. It
feels aggressive and almost like, that's my space. Intrusive. You're coming into. Right. Yes, exactly.
I don't want to knock any of the street evangelists though. Yes. That was just my experience.
Of course.
But that's just how it was for me. So I guess, so what are some of the things that you're doing now? Because I don't know if I shared this with you, but I'm gonna say this, right? So, and I told a couple people this too, but quality attracts quality. I would say that. So like when I came across your stuff on social media, you had a quality about you, and like you could be doing, and this is to encourage everyone out there too, like you could be doing something really great, and that's a cool thing, but if the quality isn't there, it's kind of hard to lure people in and then get them to stay. So when I came across your stuff and the quality that you had, I was like, oh, this is dope.
Thank you.
I can rock with it. So I guess just talk a little bit about the stuff that you do and what you're into now.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure hearing about your past, that's where your passion is drawn from.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's cool.
Yeah. So my husband and I were pastors, and that's a whole nother story on how I got there.
That's right, because you were what, early 20s?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's after 2 divorces.
Wow.
Long journey, stubborn as can be.
You were?
I was, right? Listen, the product that you get here, man.
It's a story behind it.
Man, it was rough.
Yeah.
It was rough. Very independent, strong-minded woman, like I got it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until the age of 27 and second marriage going on, divorce, and I was like, I can't do this. And literally God took me out of a pit, like literal pit. And I went to school trying to figure out what my life, like, how do I decipher this? Like, okay, school, give me a solution. The textbooks will give me a solution.
Nothing.
I used to live in Barnes and Noble, like, okay, give me an answer. Give me an answer to what's happening. I went to counseling once a week, nothing.
Wow.
Nobody could I'm like, there's gotta be something more to this thing called life. And it was all God. It's quite a testimony how that happened. But Fortunately, after all of that, the Lord gave me my perfect half, I would say. The person who I was meant to be with. And it was all it was such a miraculous, it was so, we can do this all day and just have a conversation on how all that happened, but it was truly such a God thing. And so he's been pastoring forever. We're both pastors, and, you know, having a heart for people that, like I was looking hungry, I guess, hungry people, people hungry that were looking and searching and just sharing what a relationship does, like you said earlier, what the relationship with Christ and how that can change your life is a huge thing for me. So God groomed me in the areas of evangelism, not through a school. I didn't go to seminary. I didn't do it. Totally, it's been after my husband, of course. I mean, the Holy Spirit first, and my husband, of course. But it's been through my work as a social worker, encountering so many people, encountering need, homelessness, which was a huge population with whom I've worked with, mentoring youth coming out of foster care system, and then really just trying to find my own lane and realizing I've worked with so many women. I figured, well, women is really the area that I feel like I can flourish with, and helping women in so many deep issues. So I founded Your Queen Life, which is a company that really helps and supports women through empowerment, inspiring them to really come into their own, understand who they are as a queen. And I don't use that term lightly. For me, you know, the word queen, I've just heard thrown around a lot.
It's just trendy.
Right. It's a very trendy word. However, it's a very deep thing for me. And it carries a lot of weight, and it's connected to a woman's calling, but also her mindset, you know, because it's where her crown is.
Wow.
And so there's a heaviness and a weightiness that comes to that. And so I teach a lot about wisdom. I have coaching programs that talk about wisdom and healing, and beauty. So, yeah. Wow.
And I feel like anyone that can, like, social work, in my opinion, social work is a tough work, because and it's different from like a therapist. And the reason why I say it's different from a therapist is because, like, if a person goes to therapy or someone sees a psychiatrist, like, you're paying for that, right? So, like, it kind of filters out who you sit across from.
Sure.
But with social work, you liable to get any, not to say that with a therapist you won't get any and everybody, but I think that pot's a lot larger.
Oh, yes.
And that work is heavy. So, definitely kudos to you for that.
Yeah, thank you.
And I know off air we spoke about, like, and I wanted to get your take on this too. That's why I didn't go deep into it off air. But we just talked about, because you run a business, and you're also in ministry, right? But what's the name of your ministry?
Newly Liberated Creature.
Okay. Newly Liberated Creature. And where's that? Is that in?
Well, we're virtual right now. We don't have an actual building. Okay. But yeah. So when it comes to, like, being in ministry and then having a business, like, those two things, they go hand in hand. And when I see pastors that, like, are business owners, you know, and they have a church and they're pastors, I'm like, okay, you kind of got, you got a chance, like, you got a real big chance, because you understand the financial side behind it. And I think sometimes we don't consider the financial side behind it. It's just like, okay, yeah, God's going to provide for it. And I do believe God does provide.
but I believe that there's a work that has to be done on the financial side too. So I just wanted to hear, like, what is that like for you, I guess, or like what do you feel about the business side of ministry?
Well, there could be a lot to this, but let's say this in a nutshell. There's a part of the giver and there's a part of the receiver. So in church, we have obviously the pastors who are the givers, giver of the word, but also the church building that even when church members aren't there, the lights are running.
Yep.
Water bill, AC bill here in Florida. I mean, that's insane. $5,000 a month easy for a small to medium building for the air conditioner.
Wow. Huge.
And I think as a person that sits in a pew, because that's where I started, I never considered church finance. I mean, you're in a church. It's supposed to be free, right? I mean, you don't pay for God's word, right? Like you're not supposed to pay for any of that. And I don't know, what do you think? It comes out of thin air? Or you have somebody that pays all of the bills kind of magically? I don't know. You really don't think about it.
You don't think about it.
Yeah. You know, and, you know, you learn through, and all of this is education. I think pastors really should, you know, train their people and just educate, not even train so much, just educate the people of, like, look, these are our costs. This is what it takes to run a ministry. And it's not being boastful, it's being honest and true, because otherwise when you're passing down the offering plate, then people are gonna like, oh, it's all about money. It's all about well, I mean, you come to the church, you eat it. When you go to a restaurant and you sit down and eat, do you expect a bill? Right. I mean, of course. Yeah. You know, if you go to Red Lobster, you got 2 people, $50 easy to spend on a Red Lobster meal. Yeah. So it's learning to be conscious, grateful, what you value, you give into. Yep. So it's a lot of education. I think as a minister running a business, it can also be difficult because for a lot of people, you don't become a pastor to become rich. Yeah. Like, it's like social work. Right. Exactly. I mean, my mom used to tell me, I mean, you're not going to make any money as a social worker. I used to say, you're probably right. But when you feel called and that's what you love to do, I mean, you'll figure it out, right? So it's learning how to balance, learning how to give, and God had to teach me giving from a wisdom standpoint. Even in giving, there's wisdom, and there's, you know, ways that we learn how to give to both the people that we're serving, and just anybody around us. It's really learning all of that. Yeah. And it's not always easy, but really it comes through experience. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think with giving too, like you were saying, giving with wisdom, and something that what I envisioned was a bucket of water, you know, and like you're giving out of this bucket of water, but nothing's getting replenished. Eventually that bucket is going to empty out. Yeah. And but here's the reality of that bucket analogy is the only person that has to deal with that empty bucket is the owner of that empty bucket. No one else is gonna have to worry about that or be concerned. And even if they might not be trying to like be rude, but their bucket isn't it. Like they don't have to deal with that. So you kind of got to be even wise in your giving.
It's so good you say that, because I often, instead of the bucket, I talk about the well. that we're wells. And my spiritual kids, I don't have natural born kids, but I got a ton of spiritual kids.
Yeah.
And this has been a recent conversation where, you know, you love to get, I love to give. I'm a giver. I pour out and I give 110% to the person who's on the other side. And I could listen for an hour without saying a word. And sometimes that is what people need. Wow. And, you know, and if you don't train people, you know, honor is one of those laws that I feel like we don't talk much about. And the Bible says, honor your mother and father, because with this, you'll have long life. There's longevity in honoring your parents. And this goes with both natural parents and spiritual parents. So there's a law of honor that God blesses. And when we learn how to manage this and learn how to honor those who honor us, it becomes like a two-way street. And you know, if you're the giver, you're like a well that everyone comes and picks up their bucket and takes from you, you know. And it's true that eventually if there's not a replenishment back in there, somehow the water getting its nurture, the next time that you come and grab water, it can actually get bitter. You may end up picking up bitter water because you didn't know how to honor back. Or, and I'm not just saying financially, I mean, honor, I'm not even saying give money to, you know, I mean, you can, but honoring your pastors, calling them, finding out how they are, your mentors, your leaders, whoever it is that pours into your life. Like, you can't just keep taking your entire life and expect for that to always be that way, because then there's no reciprocity in that relationship. And I feel like that's a huge, it's a huge lesson and something people really need to, you know, think about. If you think about all the pastors that leave their churches on a yearly basis, and you know, I mean, easy to say, well, it's the pastor's fault.
It's easy to say.
Point the finger, but you know, how were we an active participant in what happened? You know,
and it's real. Like that's a huge reality. And one thing that I think about too, even with on the money side of it, and that's just one of the sides of the coin, the financial burden. Because I know as a man, like just being a man, you know, and majority of leaders of, you know, in the spiritual realm, or just in a lot of churches, is men, right? So as a man, that financial weight sits different. I'm not gonna say don't sit on women, but the financial weight sits different on a man. Like, you have men commit suicide if they lose a job, a higher position at a company. They were a CEO, or they were this, or they were that, and now not that they don't have any opportunities, but that, you know, you go from making a few $100,000 a year to like now you have to try to get like an average earning position. That's gonna hit you a different way. So, like, you know, but then I look at different religions outside of Christianity and the way that they operate and handle finances. You just don't hear, I don't know if it exists, but you don't hear them the same way that you hear in the Christian aspect. And I was talking to a friend of mine, and you know, people could say or believe what they want about it, but I was talking to a friend of mine. I told him, I said, you know, in the church, or just like, you know, I feel like when it comes to that money situation, sometimes Christians are the hardest people to get through to when it comes to that. Like, because of that verse that's like so talked about. You know the verse already. It's the love of money is the root of all evil. That verse is just like, I don't know. It's just like, it's the love of money, please. And let's just say that and be done with it. But I had to learn that the hard way too, because I was coming to a point and I was just like, hold on now, I got to start focusing a little bit on this a little bit more. And it's just like, it's not a love thing, but we don't exchange goods and services anymore. money is our form of, of barter now. And if you don't have it, especially being a man and you're the head of the household and you're a pastor, you have this church. So not only, and majority of the time you're probably married. So not only do you have your natural family looking at you, you have your spiritual family, and then you're not going to keep, or you shouldn't keep. I say that, like, I don't know. I just feel like you shouldn't keep taking from your home to handle that, because that's your first thing. So, it's just tight. But that's how I feel about it. I feel like it's something that we just kind of got to get real with.
Yeah, and do heart checks. We have to. I think until we learn to really get real with ourselves, and we all have areas in our life that we want to shift and change and learn how to pivot, especially now.
Yeah.
Becoming really a student of the Bible and figuring out, okay, God, what is it that you mean when you say this and this?
Yeah.
And I think this whole COVID situation has forced us to take a look at areas in our life that maybe we would otherwise just overlook, or keep doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. Now we're just kind of forced to, like, okay, I've really got to look at this area if I want to survive. I mean, never mind thrive. I mean, survive. And it's truly, a narrow way. It's true. Every day I feel like the road just gets narrower.
Yeah.
Because the higher up you want to go, I mean, not to say that people that aren't making it out there's a lot of people making millions of dollars, and the Bible says don't envy those that are making a lot of money and aren't following my ways, because they only get what they reap. If all you're looking for is money, then don't serve God. But the Bible says, what will man give for his soul? Right? Is it worth that man gain the whole world and lose his soul? Like, if it's just about money, if it's just the money talk, then go make money.
You go make money.
Right? I mean, it's simple. If that's your focus, then you're going to get. And we know a lot of top billionaires and millionaires in the world. Yeah. But that's all they have. Yeah. That's all they have. And that's where the love of money comes
That's where
in.
the love is at.
That their number one goal is money. Celebrities and, all these people, which again, COVID has made them have to rethink their focus on money, because they're losing homes. They got to sell their houses. They've got to do a lot. But yeah. I
appreciate you sitting down here talking to me.
Sure.
So I guess let the people know where they can get in touch with you, how they can find you, and even support what it is that you're doing.
So you can find me at www.yourqueenlife.org. You can find many of our coaching programs there that we have available. We also have a beauty line, Queen Esther's Beauty, made for the beauty of women. You can go ahead, find me there, or on Facebook, on Instagram, Your Queen Life, and send me an email and let me know, and just comment on our stuff, and would love to have you there.
So cool. So y'all check them out. So you do like meetups and stuff like that with the women?
Well, everything's virtual.
Okay.
Right now.
Well, no.
Yeah, everything is virtual, and all of our coaching programs we've made available virtual. So I do coaching programs one-on-one with women. We have our newest program, Wise Women Build, that's for to help women build in wisdom and giving them foundational pillars to understanding wisdom and learning how to reign in life the right way with wisdom. So that's one of our latest things.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's real cool. Yeah. Oksana has Women of Impact.
Oh, nice.
Y'all can probably talk about that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So thank you so much for watching another episode of The Sit Down. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, but you're a subscriber. You don't watch stuff and not subscribe. So yeah, you guys are cool people. Reach out to the guests, follow the guests as well. All your information is going to be in the description too below. Just want to give a shout out to our partners, taxmoney123.com. Make sure y'all hit up the partners, Pinka, and then my favorite, most beautiful sponsor, my wife, Oksana, the legacy coach. Yeah. So yeah, thank y'all so much, and we'll see you guys next time on The Sit Down. Deuces.
Yay!
Yeah.
Awesome.